If you hate Mondays and love lasagna, stick around because today we're sculpting Garfield the cat. So one day I'm working on something completely different and I look over and I see this little box sitting to the side of me and I immediately think of Garfield's cat box and just decide I need to make that. So I take a little bacon bun and I fill out the inside of the little box to give something for my ultralight clay to stick to, and I blend it in and make sure it's completely full before I add some foil. Using clay is a great way to add a little bit more bulk and shape without using too much clay. Now that the foil is completely bulked out, I add a little bit of ultralight clay on top of the foil to really get that Garfield sleeping in his cat box shape, and then I put him in the oven to bake. Now that he's out of the oven, I add a little bit more bacon bond on top to really give something for my super Sculpey clay to stick to, and then I get him nice and smooth. Here I'm taking some clay noodles and I place them where I think some wrinkles and folds would be to give some life to the blanket in his cat bed. In most of the comic strips that I studied, he has this really big fold right at the back of his bed. I don't know if it's making room for his tail or if he just has a lot of blanket, but here I am adding that clay and blending it in. Then I finish it off by adding one more little fold on the other side and then I blend it in. Next I start to work on his ears. I take some little cat ear shaped pieces of clay and I place them where his cat ears would go, and then I blend them into the base of his head. To get the iconic Garfield large cat eyes, I take some oval-shaped flat pancakes and place them right where his eyes would go. And to give him that I hate Mondays look about his eyes, I take some clay noodles and I place them right where his eyelids would go to really show off that he is not happy to be here. Then I blend it into the top of his eyelids. To make his mouth, I start by taking some kind of teardrop shaped pieces of clay and I place it right under his eye and blend it in well, and then I repeat that process on the other side. Next, to make sure that he can really smell that lasagna that's cooking in the oven, I add his tiny little nose right where his nose would go. To show off the edge of the blanket, I take a strip of clay and I place it right behind his head a little bit, and then I blend it in. To finish off his blanket, I add one more large clay noodle to add another fold right around where his neck would be under the blanket. I use a pointed tool to create the little black spots that he has right on his mouth. Moving on to the little black whisker things that he has coming off the side of his head right underneath his ears, I used some wire and some clay and I tried to place them where they needed to go. But I was having so much trouble with these that I ended up just making some pre-baked pieces of clay whiskers that I put in the unbaked clay before I baked him. Lastly, I added some little pieces of clay right where his eyes would go, and then I put him in for a final bake. For his head, I give him a base white coat to really help that orange color that he has to really pop. Once that base coat was dry, then I paint his entire head that iconic orange Garfield color. For his mouth, I painted a yellow color that is slightly not bright, but still kind of yellow. Next, I paint his blanket that nice blue blanket color that he usually uses in his comic strips. For the actual cat bed, based off the references that I saw, there are a few different colors I could have went with, but I decided to go with this magenta pinkish color because I really like the way it popped next to the blue blanket. I finish off his face by painting his nose a very light pink and then painting his eyes black. I also paint the little whiskers or little tufts of hair coming off the side of his head black as well. He's also got these black markings on his ears that kind of go around the edge and then like two little lines down the middle of his ear, and I do that on both of his ears. He's not really Garfield without his stripes, so I take some black little stripes around these sides and back of his head. Lastly, I finish him up by adding the little black dots on his mouth and then get him ready for the glamour shots. There he is, the beloved Garfield the cat who hates Mondays and loves lasagna. I hope you enjoyed watching me make him, and just for fun, let me know, where did you grow up with Garfield? Did you read the comic strips? Did you watch the Garfield and Friends cartoon? Are you excited about the upcoming movie? Let me know in the comments. As always, have a great day and remember to stay crafty.